For us young self-taught artists, style is something that is aspirational. All the greats seem to have it, and you want that for yourself. You want to be recognizable, memorable, and have an impact. All of which is possible with a style. But the thing is, you have zero clue how to actually make your own style. And that is due to two major misconceptions. One, you think style is something you find rather than something you make. Your second misconception is that style is about the visual outcome rather than the process. Now, I have three tips that are going to give you serious insight on how you can build your own style. Let's get started. So, one of the first things you want to do is change your focus from the visual style to actually the process. Okay. You want to decide what tools you're going to be working with. You want to decide what is the mindset that you're going to go into the artwork with. Let me explain. So when I draw, right, I just go in straight with the pen. I don't do any pre-sketches. I don't, plan out what I'm going to draw. I just go at it and then I'm just doodling from imagination, right? And this is a process that I've taken from Kim Jong-ji. Kim Jong-ji is a really talented Korean artist. I'm sure some of you must know him. And he's able to draw these amazing, right? Amazing like cityscapes, characters and perspective straight out of his imagination. And he'll start from the hand, he'll draw the whole body, draw like 10 characters around that central character, draw like a deconstructed car, merged with an airplane, merged with a cow. Like, I don't know. He can do anything he wants. Okay. And he was one of my inspirations. And he's one of the reasons that I started following this art style. I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. I'm gonna just pick up a pen and start scribbling. Now, of course, uh, I'm not that good, but since I decided on that process, right, out of that, my imagination is really allowed to blossom, right? And that's really what you want. You don't want to aim for an end result or an end aesthetic, really, when you're trying to discover your own style. This isn't a conscious process. Style discovery to a large extent is an unconscious process. It will come through repetition, right? It will come through giving yourself freedom and seeing what naturally comes up and then refining that raw material that has naturally come up through inserting, technical elements, fundamentals, all your understanding or line, color, composition, yada yada, right? But that all comes after. The first step really is defining your process. Okay. Deciding, okay, I'm going to work with oils. I'm going to work with a pen. And then limiting yourself in that aspect and seeing what naturally comes up. And that brings me to my second point, which is drawing or sketching or painting or creating purely from imagination. Now, when you create from imagination, I know this is quite intimidating for a lot of like artists who are like just starting up. Not an amateur like me, like proper beginners. It's really intimidating to draw from imagination because it's like, oh, what do I draw? You're scared. You're like trying to get it right and all of that. So you want to skip all that. You don't want to get it right. You just want to get it. You just want to get something on paper. You want a visual vomit on paper. That is your raw material. The imagination in your head is not the raw material. The imagination put on paper, or put on canvas, is the raw material on which we're going to build with fundamentals. So what do I mean by that? It's pretty straightforward, honestly. You want to do a lot of fuck ton of practice in terms of fundamentals. Okay. And there are some key things that you want to look at. Form manipulation, okay, is one. Form manipulation is essential. Doesn't matter what kind of art you're doing, it is essential. Okay. Illustration specifically, it's very essential. Even in terms of abstract art, it's very essential. Anywhere we're trying to draw perspective, you're trying to do characters, you're trying to do concept sketches, location sketches, all of that. Shape manipulation. Now, what does shape manipulation entail? It's very simple. It means taking basic shapes, okay, taking basic shapes and drawing them in perspective, merging the basic shapes together, drawing them in the merged form from different perspectives with different foreshortening. Okay, and you want to play on paper, specifically with pencil and pen. You want to play on paper and create this three dimensionality in perspective. Okay, and why are we doing this? We're doing this to cause a paradigm shift in the way you approach painting. All right, and the paradigm shift is this: the paper is a window into a 3D space. It is not a 2D space. When you're doing form manipulation sketches, you're looking at the paper or the canvas as a window into a 3D space where objects and forms follow the laws of perspective and where you can freely manipulate at least the basic forms into whatever shape you want. Okay. And when you get good at this, when you really get good at this, it's going to skyrocket the believability of your work. And that's really what you want. So that's one, shape manipulation. Second is composition. Now, in the composition thing, that 2D space is a 2D space. It's back to being a 2D space. Now you're looking at the paper as a 2D space. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to plot, right? Where is the attention going? Okay. Where do I want the viewer's attention to flow? How's it flowing through the page? That is essentially all that composition is about. It's about creating aesthetic, cohesive designs where you are consciously controlling the attention of the viewer. Cohesiveness and aesthetics are one part of composition, other is the direction of attention. And there are a lot of books about this that I will suggest in the bio. But this is the second thing you want to be focused on a broad overview level. The third thing that you want to focus on is lighting. All of art is light. Okay. Um, this is especially relevant if you're working in black and white like me, right? I'm going to ignore color for now. But tone, the ability to render realistic tone is essential to art. Okay. I'm sure you know this if you've done any basic fit like art making, you know that tone is very essential to art making, right? And you really want to focus on this. And the best way to do this is to draw spheres and to shade those spheres. Draw again simple boxes, shade them in different lightings. Take more complex shapes, shade them. Do life studies. You want to also look at different materials and go on Pinterest, look at different materials, and then sketch how those materials are look under different lightings. And you want to do a lot of these sketches. Now the reason you want to focus on fundamentals is that they are the basic building blocks with which you will be playing in the imagination stage that I mentioned before. So the more you build up these building blocks, these fundamentals, the more you get to play when you're drawing from imagination. So the better your fundamentals and the more you play with your imagination, the more chance a nice, cohesive style that works will arise. Okay. And that's what you're looking for, right? Now let's move on to the third and last tip I have for you, which is gaming consistency. Okay. There are three main ways in which you can game consistency beyond just following the same material and process. All right. And that is consistency in motives, consistency in presentation, and consistency in concepts. Now, consistency in motives essentially means that you're using the same points of inspiration. Now, for me, I really like using the motives of tigers, the motives of humans, the motives of anatomy, and moving those shapes around. In terms of concepts, I really like using surrealist landscapes. I really like using illustrative concepts, wherein there's something playful, there's something that is a bit caricature like, wherein there is some humor and some satire that is mixed in. So that makes my pieces more conceptually closer together, okay, and provides that consistency that really is fundamental to style. A style is just consistency. That's what a style is. um so you have the conceptual consistency. You can also have consistency in terms of presentation. Now, if you want more freedom, this is the kind of consistency that you would want to go. Why limit yourself to just general presentation styles, a 2D print or a page or a canvas. Why limit yourself to that? Instead, try to come up with a creative way of presenting your art, which is how you present all of your art. So there's this artist, I've forgotten his name, but I'm going to show you his artworks. And what he does is he essentially has a white border across all of his artwork, and he has handwritten notes below the artwork. Now, anything he does within this border and above these notes seems to be consistent and seems to be his, because this bordering and this note making is the signature that ties it all together, that ties his whole body of work together. And it's this really quick fix that can be done, especially if you're going into fine arts, you want to be a fine artist. That consistency of presentation is really a killer and quick way of forming or a cohesiveness that is conducive of style. So those are my tips. These are just some quick thoughts that I wanted to share with you. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like this video and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.